every purchase requires a sequence of beliefs. This is for me. I understand what this is. I want the outcome badly enough. I believe this can work for someone like me. It feels easy and safe enough to act, and there's a reason to act now. The best performance comes when the creative angle and the post-click experience are designed as one continuous persuasion system. The brands with the advantage will be the ones that can take very strong ad insight and turn it into a post-click experience that makes the message convert at scale. A congruent page says, I know exactly why you clicked. Here's the thing you need to understand. So if everybody can produce more creative and creative volume by itself becomes less of a what next? What is harder is actually producing genuinely different post-click experiences at the same pace. What's up, people? Lina Fahizul here, aka Chief Operating Officer. Now you're probably wondering why you can't see my beautiful face, and that's because my Fiki niece had spilled water on my laptop, unfortunately, so my camera is now fuzzy. But never mind on that, because today's topic is what we should be focused on, not my face. So today we're going to be talking about CRO methodology in 2026 from page optimization to acquisition path design. Now, I'm super excited when Mabil told me about this because a month or so ago, we actually teamed up on a workshop, a 3-day workshop where we covered all things female buyer psychology and marketing to women. But today, what we're going to focus on is the core thesis of it all, which is the fact that I think that the landing page is no longer just the thing we optimize after traffic arrives. It's actually increasingly part of the acquisition system itself. Probably wondering who the fuck I am and why I call myself the chief OV officer. And that's because I specialize in direct response and female buyer psychology. And I've lost, to be honest, I've lost track of how many male founders that I've worked with to help them market to women in not only the way that women want to be marketed to, but in a way that feels good for everyone. Because I truly believe gone are the days where you're just making women feel like shit, paying agitation, twist the knife to get them to buy a product. There's a better way to do things that is fun for everybody involved. And that's what I talk about, and that's what I teach. That's what I want to share with you today, in particular for CRO. Okay, so today what we're going to cover is CRO changing, which direction I think it's heading in, how the ads start the conversation and the landing pages to continue it. And I see a lot of this actually not being implemented. I'm actually quite shocked. Finding the real conversion constraint, the leave gaps, why people don't buy, the landing page, and how it's becoming part of the targeting system, from one perfect page to multiple acquisition paths, a new way to think about winning, and where I think the CRO mode is forming. So let's get into it. I've got 15 minutes, so I'm going to try to teach you as much as I can, share as much as I can, and cram as much as I can. Okay, because y'all know that I love to yap. So, okay, let's get into it. CRO is changing. And I think for a long time, when I hear people say CRO or when people say CRO, the default picture is very specific. You take a page, you change one small thing, split traffic 50-50, and then wait for the results, call it a winner, rinse and repeat. Don't get me wrong, though. I think that mode is still useful, but I think there's just more to it right now. Because if I want to isolate whether buy box change or the pricing presentation, a guarantee, or a specific piece of messaging causes a lift, a controlled experiment is incredibly valuable. So I'm not saying that it's going to change completely, right? But more and more, after I've spoken to a lot of CRO agency founders and e-com founders, I think the definition is too narrow for where the market is going right now. So, in my opinion, CRO is becoming much less about just perfecting one page in isolation and more about building a better acquisition path for different types of buyers. So, in my opinion, and from what I've seen in the industry, not just my opinion, there's data based off this. If you look on Twitter, especially right on e-com Twitter, more and more you're seeing other people realizing this as well. CRO is not just about tweaking every single thing on one page in isolation, but becoming more and more about measuring your language to the level of awareness of the people in your ads, or making sure there is ad to landing page congruency. I've spoken about this extensively, right? About having ad to landing page congruency. Coming back here, my whole point is that the shift that matters most to me is this. The landing page is not just something we optimize after traffic arrives. It's increasingly, and it should be increasingly part of the acquisition system itself, because gone are the days where you just have a bunch of ads and you send them to the same damn product page and the same damn landing page. More and more now, I'm seeing people pay attention to diversity in landing pages as much as in their creatives. So as I said, the unit of CRO is changing. You can look at this beautiful graphic that I did here with Claude. You can see old model versus emerging model. So just to recap, old model of one page, tiny isolated changes, 50-50 split, and they're calling it a winner, calling it a day. Emerging model is multiple acquisition paths, angle match experiences, and then scaling what earns profitable spend, which is what we spoke about earlier. If you have an ad that's targeting someone that's solution aware, your landing page should speak that. Think about it as a bridge. Your ad should continue, your landing page should continue what your ad promised. Now, let's talk about CRO as a commercial learning system. When I think about CRO methodology now, I start with a slightly different definition. CRO is a commercial learning system. So its job is not just to make a page prettier or to chase conversion rate as a vanity metric, but the job is to understand what is limiting revenue from the traffic that we already have, right? And then we form a strong hypothesis. Now, I'm going to go off tangent here, but this is something that is so crazy to me that I see so many big brands or I talk to e-com founders and stuff like that. And when I ask them how they're doing the CRO or how they're doing the testing and why they're testing something, there's no hypothesis behind it. You can't just test things based on vibes, guys. Everything that you test or everything that your CRO agency tests, or if you have in-house or if you work with an agency, everything should have a hypothesis. Because why are you testing something if there's not a reason behind it? If there's not a data to point that you should test that. And why I'm such a stickler for having a hypothesis, because if something wins, then you'll know how to apply it to your other landing pages or funnels. If something loses, then you know how to tweak it or how to make it better. Because a lot of times I see this time and time again, when a test loses, you just chuck it and call it a day. But you don't look into why it lost and how it can be improved and then test it again. Because sometimes something loses because you might not look into a certain element or something like that, or it's something they have missed, or maybe there was a mismatch somewhere. And then if you run the test again, these refinements, it becomes a winner. Again, going back to forming a strong hypothesis about why, changing the experience, and learning what belief was correct. It means that I care about metrics like revenue per visitor, AOVs, subscription take rate, CAC, contribution margin, and ultimately whether the business can actually absorb more profitable spend. These are the things that we should be looking at. Conversion rate matters, but it's also just one part of the economic picture. It also means that I don't just begin with, okay, what should we change on this page? I start with, and I think everybody should start with, where is the constraint and what does the customer need from us at that point in the journey? A higher CVR is not automatically a better business outcome. And I just want to drive this point home, because a page can convert slightly worse and still be more valuable if it raises AOV, attracts a better customer, increases subscription adoption, or unlocks an incremental profitable spend. Just want to highlight there because I think there's a bit of misconception when it comes to this particular topic. You will see on my Twitter and on my YouTube, I talk so much about ad to landing page congruency because it is so important. You could pump out so many creatives, but if they're sending everybody to the same landing page, a landing page that doesn't continue the story, you're just burning your money. And I don't want to see people burn their money. I want to see people make the most out of the money that they spend on ads and take them to a proper landing page, right? Because why would you send someone to a landing page that just doesn't make sense and you're spending so much money on ads? Ad to landing page congruency, what that means is, okay, again, think about it like a bridge. The ad starts a specific conversation, right? Angle, avatar, problem, promise, all these things that's covering. The bridge is the psychological continuity of what do my customers need to believe. Is when you take them to the page, it needs to continue the same frame, right? Truths, beliefs, offer, action. Let me give you an example. Say your ad is speaking to a woman about how the cream is different and how it's going to help with, I don't know, creepy skin because there's a unique mechanism, there's a patented technology within your cream. So every pump, you get the most out of that cream. And that's why it helps with creepy skin. And you're in your ads, for example, you're saying it doesn't reverse aging, but it helps slow it down. It doesn't continue the story. The story should be about the unique mechanism and how it helps slow down the aging process for that said woman and how she's going to feel after that, and then introduce your product. That's just an example of what I mean by about a bridge, right? The landing page should feel like the natural next step for the person to take. When you think about your ad, think about the story and then think about what comes after. I think a lot of times people just create the ad and don't really care about the landing page that they send people to. But you should be thinking about it as a story. And I always use storytelling as an example because it really is true. What's the story your ad is telling, and how do you want to continue that story? Because the way I look at it is the ad is just like a teaser, and you want to get people to click to the landing page to read the entire story, right? Think of your ad as a trailer, and then the landing page is the full movie. This is where ad to landing page congruency becomes really important because the idea is simple, right? The landing page should just feel like the natural next step. If someone clicks on an ad, because it speaks to menopause related muscle loss, and they land on a generic supplement PDP, we talked about 10 broad benefits. The page has effectively broken the conversation. The ad created relevance, then the landing page made the visitor do the translation work again. Okay, so that's causing a disconnect. When someone's disconnected, especially on cold traffic, they're not going to give you the time of day, they're just going to buy. So another brand that has ad to landing page congruency, and it makes it easier for her. Or imagine an ad built around a very specific objection. Something like, I've tried compression socks before and my ankles were still swollen. If the page they land on opens with generic copy just about comfort and colors, we've wasted the strongest piece of context we already had because we already had them in that state of mind. Guys, marketing and psychology is all about keeping your customers in that frame of mind as much as you can because we only have a finite amount of window to convince someone of something. A congruent page says, I know exactly why you clicked. Here's the thing you need to understand. So there, that's something I want to talk about when it comes to ad to landing page congruency. Anyway, just to recap what congruency actually looks like so you guys can implement this yourselves. Number one is promise match. Does the page immediately pay off the promise or curiosity created in the ad? Number two is angle match. If the ad sells through a specific mechanism, problem, identity, use case, or outcome, does that page stay on the angle? Number three is awareness match. Is the page written for how much the visitor already knows rather than forcing every buyer through the same education? Number four is avatar match. Does the visitor recognize themselves in the examples, visuals, clues, objections, and language? Belief continuity. What does the ad make them believe, and what must the page make them believe next? Offer continuities. Does the offer feel like a logical resolution to the problem the ad introduced? Visual continuities, creative language, and first screen make the transition feel intentional rather than disconnected. True congruency is psychological continuity. The ad creates a mental frame. The page should inherit that frame, deepen it, and then answer the next objection, build the next belief, and move the visitor towards the offer without resetting the conversation. And that is continuity. That is how I look at it. So, on to the next. How I diagnose the conversion constraints. We spoke about all these things earlier, but before you go into anything, what is the biggest constraint, right? So, this is how I look at it. You've got urgency, relevance, clarity, value, trust, and friction. Urgency is why do they have to act now? Relevance is this for me? Clarity is do I understand this? Value is do I want it enough? Trust is do I believe it? And the friction is easy enough. Look at it as a signal, confirmation, constraint, hypothesis, test, and then learn. The way I diagnose this is closer to the way that my mentor has taught me. First, identify where behavior is breaking, and then work backwards towards the dominant psychological constraint causing it. I start with the behavioral signal, and then the funnel data tells me where the leak is. And then I look at the scroll maps, heat maps, and then show and look at where the attention is falling off, and then where people are trying to interact with. And then I'll look at session recordings to confirm the story instead of just binge watching random sessions and inventing explanations. The way of thinking is useful because maps are signals, not conclusions. So, for example, a sharp scroll drop, repeated clicks, rage clicks, clickbacks, or people just constantly returning to the same sections, those are clues for me. And then recordings help explain, okay, what happened in the individual journey and where is the pattern that I see. And then once I know where the behavior is breaking, I can then diagnose the page through relevance, clarity, values, trust, friction, and urgency. Those things that I mentioned above. So the question is not about what I could improve, but it's which are of these is currently the dominant constraint. For example, immediate exits and almost no flow often point to relevance or clarity. Strong engagement but weak action can point to value, trust, or friction. Checkout drop off can suggest risk, uncertainty, or execution friction, and that exact diagnosis depends on the traffic and the offer and the behavior. But all of it is to say that the principle is the same, which is finding the biggest constraint before even creating the test. Look at it like this: the data tells you where the breakdown is, behavior and customer research helps you understand why it's happening. So I also think of it in terms of belief gaps. It's belief, right? Every purchase requires a sequence of beliefs. Every purchase requires a sequence of beliefs, which is this is for me. I understand what this is. I want the outcome badly enough. I believe this can work for someone like me. That feels easy and safe enough to act, and there's a reason to act now. A strong page is really just a belief sequence if you look at it. The test strip reflects the dominant missing belief rather than randomly just adding more persuasion everywhere. If you don't if you don't do your research and don't look at the data, you're just gonna assume that they need more persuasion. But sometimes you just need more belief, right? And so if trust is a constraint, then I want to test trust. If clarity is a constraint, then I don't want to muddy the learning by changing the offer, guarantee, and pay structure at the same time. I think this will help give anyone watching this a lot of clarity on what to test because a lot of times I see people just testing random shit. And that's not how we should be doing things, guys. That's not how we should be running around. Okay? Everything should be backed by a hypothesis and why you want to test it. So, anyway, where do I see CRO going? This is the part I'm most interested in right now, okay? Because AI has massively compressed the cost of producing creative. So that's not even an issue anymore. There's still a huge difference between good creative and AI slop, in my opinion, but the sheer cost of making more ads has fallen dramatically. So if everybody can produce more creative and creative volume by itself becomes less of a what next? What is harder is actually producing genuinely different post-click experiences at the same pace. Not 20 cosmetic variations of the same PDP, 20 high conviction pages built for different awareness levels, different avatars, different creative pillars, different objections, different mechanisms, and different belief gaps. I think that requires actual strategy because you need to understand why the ad works. Okay? You need to understand what conversation it started, what the visitor still needs to believe, and what kind of page should logically come next. Now, this is so interesting because I saw someone tweeted this, but I can't remember who it was. And I think that person was saying something about how he ran his ad to an LLM because it was trained on like direct response and psychology and all these things. It picked up on the different beliefs that the ad was trying to get out. And this person was saying, and this tweet, the person was saying that this is what's happening in the age of AI because there's so much AI slop that people don't know why ad is working. So an ad could crush it and someone could not even know or not realize why it's working because they don't understand the layers of beliefs underneath it. In the age of AI, yes, production is so much faster. You can come up with so many different kinds of ads, so many different kinds of angles and all these things. So then where does the moat become? That's why I think that the moat is the post-click experience. And the moat becomes message to page translation. And that's why I think landing pages are starting to be produced and tested more like creative assets and acquisition right now. And we're going to see a lot of that happening. Instead of asking only, can this new page beat our control in a perfectly isolated site like test, we can ask a second question, which is we have a winning angle. Can we build a page that continues that exact angle and launch it as its own acquisition path and see if the platform can find more people who respond to that complete ad plus experience page? That's a very different question because the unit we're optimizing is no longer just the page, it is the path itself. Which brings me to my next point. The unit of optimization becomes the acquisition path. One product, multiple high conviction acquisition paths. You've got angle A, angle B, angle C. So angle A is problem aware, then the landing page A also becomes problem, mechanism, proof, offer, scale. Angle B, solution aware, and then you've got the landing page for that, which is differentiation, offer, proof, offer, scale, right? Angle C, avatar specific, and then the landing page will be identity, objection, outcome. So the market doesn't need one perfect page, it just needs the right path for the right buyer. So think about it as an acquisition path of ad, landing page, offer, checkout, purchase. One angle might be for a 25 plus customer who's worried about muscle retention. Another might be around GLP-1 users. Another might be for someone who already understands the category and simply needs a stronger offer. And those people should not necessarily receive the same page just because they buy the same product or SKU, right? If the message required to earn the click is different, then the message required to convert that click also can be different, right? And this changes what a win, quote unquote, can mean. So sometimes the existing PDP continues spending $5,000 a day profitably, and a new specialized lender doesn't replace it, but it adds another 1,000 or 2,000 or $3 a day of profitable spend because it unlocks a new different pocket of audience or different message market combination. To me, that's still a CRO win because even though we didn't necessarily create one universal page that beats everything, we did increase the amount of profitable around the accounting captures, right? It doesn't have to replace a control. It can just be profitable by adding just 1 or 2K to it. Therefore, for me, the old question is which page wins overall. The new question, or where I see CRM going, is which acquisition path deserves more spend and what incremental demand does it unlock? Which brings me to my next point of what this does to testing methodology. Match the testing method to the decision. For example, casual question is this specific this specific change cause a lift, and then you can use control A/B or multivariate testing, optimize for clean learning about a variable. And then the acquisition question is, can this angle and page unlock profitable demand? So then you want to test the complete path in economics and optimize for incremental profitable spend. Different questions require different evidence, right? So it's not one size fits all. Now I want to be careful here because I do think that statistical testing, it's not like it just stops mattering. But if the question is casual and specific, which is whether a subscription default, bundle price presentation, guarantee, and all these things, then a controlled A/B test is still one of the cleanest tools that we have. Or A/B test is the best way to do things. Now, I think this is the problem with like maxes or like people who are just extreme. Because my whole point is that there shouldn't be, okay, you either A/B test in isolation or you do landing pages. It's not like one is better than the other. My whole point or my whole thinking is that you should be doing both to the best of your advantage. It's not either or here, guys. It's both and what works, what do you need at the moment. But I think we get into trouble when we assume that every CRO question has to be forced in the exact same experimental format. So if the question is whether a completely different message market page combination can open a new pocket of profitable spend, then I'm comfortable treating that more like an acquisition testing. You can launch listing creative to lender combinations, keep the economics visible, compare CAC, RPV, AOV, all these things, and let the market allocate attention, right? So this is not the same thing as claiming perfect casually. It answers a different commercial question. My testing philosophy is becoming more and more also match the testing method to the decision that you made. So for example, two valid testing modes. So question is, did this specific change cause a lift? Then the best fit method is control A/B or multivariate test. And then what it can tell you is learning about a variable or constraint. And then the second one is, can this angle and page unlock more profitable acquisition? Then the best fit method is distinct acquisition path, ad set, or campaign level comparison, right? Because then you can tell commercially which is more viable and has incremental potential spend. So I'm hoping you guys are starting to see the bigger picture here on CRO, and I'm excited for you guys to take this and implement it because once you do, you're going to see such a huge difference. You're going to be able to absorb more spend. You're going to be able to unlock new pockets of audiences that you probably were trying to be full but couldn't. You're going to be able to scale more profitably. There's just so many things, and I'm so excited to share this because I think that so many people, brands would benefit from this. So, sorry, off tangent there, but I'm just very excited for you guys because I think this is going to unlock a new way for you to think. Okay, number 7. Just to recap, so what good CRO teams will need to get good at, or what if it's just you, if it's your team, if it's agency, what I think in general to get good at is creative diagnosis. And I just want to handle this here, you guys, because there's so many times where there's a top spending ad of this ad that's crushing it, and that person doesn't even know why it's crushing it. And for me, creative diagnosis and understanding why a winning ad worked is so important because every time I see this time and time again, people just rip other people's ads without understanding why it worked, without understanding the psychology behind it, without understanding the angle or the audience behind it. Awareness mapping, so knowing how much education different traffic needs before the offer, customer language, the ability to turn review surveys and support data into positioning and page copy, belief sequencing, so identifying what must be believed next before for the click to become a purchase, offer strategy, so making the offer commercially compelling, not just simply decorating a PDP, first page production, so being able to turn strategy into multiple distinct experiences without sacrificing quality, acquisition matrix, and I think this is the most important one, understanding meta performance, CAC, spend, CPM, CPR, creative context, instead of just treating CRO as an isolated department, learning systems, so documenting what each path teaches so you can use it in the future. And this is also why I think CRO and creative strategy are moving closer and closer together. Because whenever I tell someone that, yeah, even though I do CRO, I work very closely with the creative strategist. And the reason for this is if your CRO team is not working with your creative strategist, or if your CRO team doesn't ask for access to your meta ads library, then what is happening? How can you ensure continuity? Because you can't just be CRO is not just you're not meant to work with CRO is not meant to just work in isolation. When I do CRO work for my clients, I'm in touch constantly with the creative strategist because every post that I do or every page that I'm testing, I want to match the creative angles to it. I want to know what's working, what focus working, what's happening, so that we can match it with the test that we're about to launch or the page that we're going to test. Even the retention team. CRO, the people doing CRO should be talking to your retention team, should be talking to customer support to understand what is working, what's not working, what the customer's frustrations are. My whole point is that CRO shouldn't be in isolation. It should be part of a holistic approach, right? It shouldn't just be them working in silo. It should be working in tandem with the retention and with the acquisition team. So this is also the other thing that I'm going to mention, which is the handoff. Just can't simply be media bias and traffic. 0% optimizes whatever place. And then the best performance comes when the creative angle and the post-click experience are designed as one continuous persuasion system. The page should know what the ad did. The ad should know what the page can prove, and both should be built around the same customer belief. If I had to summarize where I see Sierra going, I would say this. The old model of just optimizing one page to death is no longer going to be this. It's no longer going to be where we're heading. Where we're heading is building multiple high conviction acquisition paths for different buyers and then letting the market show us which message, pages, and offer deserves more spend. Now, that doesn't mean that we throw away control experimentation, which is like what I said, but it just means we stop confusing a testing technique with the entire discipline. It means that we shouldn't choose either or, and that the brands with the advantage will be the ones that can take very strong ad insight and turn it into a post-click experience that makes the message convert at scale. Because like I said, anyone can make more creative now. The harder thing or the thing that requires nuance and discernment is knowing what conversation should happen after the click. So that to me is where the CRO mode is forming. So I've got a quick checklist for you all here so to make sure that you have ad to landing page congruency. Now, I hope that you guys found this mini workshop valuable. If you want to see more of my things, I'm actually going to list it down here where you can find me on Twitter. If you want to go deeper into female buyer psychology and all things marketing to women, I will drop my course link as well called the Female Marketing Bible, where I go deeper into those things. And yeah, I'm super excited. I hope you guys dig into this and take action and execute because don't just consume all the content in the world and not do anything about it. Go ahead. There's so much stuff on the internet now that you can literally just do things. So if it's one thing to take away from this call above all else, above everything that I yapped on, is please go out and execute. Okay, that's all. See ya. Love you guys.